We know today that accumulating liver fat is the main driver, the main determinant of developing type 2 diabetes. If you have 100 grams of fat in your liver, you become a non-responder of physical activity. So having fat in the liver, and it doesn't matter where it comes from, is it muffled or what is the reason for the fat, changes your risk of contracting diabetes. But the green ones do all this wrong, but they never get diabetes. So these are the healthy obese. And we all know them, that obese people who have an unhealthy lifestyle, but they are at the end healthy, don't develop diabetes. Learning from them will give us the secret answer of successful prevention of diabetes. But we have to ask ourselves, where is diabetes coming from? Here the gray bar is the prevalence of diabetes in the 80s. The blue one is the increase in prevalence or an increase in number of people with diabetes due to the increase of population. This makes sense, more people with diabetes. But yellow and red, rosé, is the increase in number of people with diabetes due to the change of our lifestyle. And we are only looking to the increase, 70% of the increase in number of people with diabetes related to our change of environment, change of lifestyle, change of our habits. And this already gives us the answer what we can do against it, because again, it's lifestyle, it's lifestyle, it's lifestyle, it's lifestyle. And if we accomplish this, if we understand this, we have a very strong driver for prevention of diabetes in our hand. It's not prescribing drugs. We have excellent drugs. We don't have them in Europe. We don't have them in North Africa. They are in India. They are in China because the innovation is there. In India, there are 54 more diabetes drugs available than in the rest of the world. So this is actually very cool. But 80% of the people with diabetes live in India, China, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. So if we really want to have an impact for people with diabetes, it has to be in this region. But the message always is prevention of diabetes is not related to any given drug. Prevention of diabetes is only related to lifestyle. But look at this slide. You could assume this is the increase in prevalence in the upcoming years. It is not. It is air pollution today. If you stay 5 minutes behind a diesel car and you take a deep breath, you find medium-sized particles out of the diesel engine 2 weeks later in the beta cell. Does it mean something? We don't know. In cell culture, it reduces insulin secretion of the beta cell by 30%. What it does in humans, we don't know. We have to study this. But air pollution can become a health determinant for getting diabetes. And you have seen this slide today. This is why we are dying. And if you are looking why we are dying, it's related to endocrine diseases and climate. So climate change is a determinant, and you just had it with 2 talks back, how the climate change influences our nutritional habits and how this might be related to diabetes. So this is something we have to understand if we really want to prevent diabetes from developing. And as Dr. Jamal said, it's prevention, it's prevention, it's prevention, and prevention again. And these 2 numbers are an effective way against prevention. If we would walk 10,000 steps a day, we would not contract any chronic disease. If you have diabetes, it's actually getting better. If you have diabetes and only walk 1,000 steps more than you normally do, it lowers the postprandial blood sugar by 1.5 millimole. This is twice as much as 1,000 milligram of metformin are doing. So this is actually cool. We are made to walk 36 to 39,000 steps a day. We are not using this potential. Do you know how much we are walking per day? This is the average daily walk count of a German person. So we are lazy. We are not using the potential. If I ask the question the other way around, how many hours per day we are inactive? This is the answer. We are a lazy species. We are not using the potential we are having. Yeah? If we are, assume you are a machine and the machine is made to work 20 hours a day and you only use it for 20 minutes, it's understandable this machine breaks down. And this is the reason why we are getting sick. So if you are honest, the true prevention of diabetes is not in our brain as endocrinologists, it's not in our prescription as endocrinologists, it's in the muscle of our patients. If we would be able to activate this muscle, if we would be able to activate our own muscle, because we are not always a good example to our patient. But we are physicians, we are scientists, so we have to look into the pathophysiology. This is healthy. Young women, high normal A1C, the purple line is glucose, measured 1,440 times a day with the new sensors. And she is a very healthy individual. And the interesting point is there's absolutely no elevation of glucose because she's very insulin sensitive. She needs about 1% of her insulin to regulate blood sugar. This is her father. It's truly her father. The father is actually having a better A1C than the daughter, but a totally different glucose curve. And this is important because today we know this up and down of glucose drives morbidity and mortality of our patient. Assume you have two people with an A1C of 7. One has mild fluctuation and the other one has big fluctuations, but the same mean, the same A1C. The one with a big fluctuation will die because of a stroke and a heart attack. The one with a mild fluctuation may even don't need treatment. So if this is true, it will change our paradigms how to treat and how to diagnose diabetes. The difficulty is we don't find them. If you're going back to this person has maybe 3 more years, then he develops permanent hyperglycemia, and then he is developing diabetes, and it still takes about 10 years until we diagnose the disease. So this is actually a disaster, and if we would find the person in this moment, we could prevent the disease, but it's difficult to find. We cannot give a sensor for $60 for screening, not yet. In 5 years we can. In 3 years we have sensors for €10 or less, and then this also will change our approaches. Going back to the pathophysiology, this is 90 years of developing diabetes of a person, and the driver, and we had it in several talks, I assume we had it in several talks because it was French, but I understood visceral obesity and insulin resistance. So the visceral obesity is driving the risk of contracting diabetes. And why? Because the visceral fat is not fat. It's an endocrine organ. We know more than 800 peptide hormones released out of the visceral fat. They act in the brain, they act in every tissue, they act in the liver, in the kidney, and they increase the risk of getting a disease. If you have 5.2 kilograms of visceral fat, as a man, you have only 5% viable sperms left. If you have 4.8 kilogram of visceral fat, you have a 3-fold risk of getting a depression. 4.8 kilogram of visceral fat, you have a risk of getting dementia 17 years earlier than the average of the population. So this is risk. This is disease risk. This is a strong health determinant. So the logical consequences, if assume it is true what I'm saying, so the consequence would be visceral fat has to disappear because then we improve health. But it's getting more problematic because there's another candidate, it's a hepatic fat. And you see the hepatic fat increases where the blue line, this is insulin resistance, it's at about 50-60%, and it comes up and then it stays and it actually accumulates. And as I said it at the beginning, 100 grams of fat in your liver means you become a non-responder of physical activity. And this is the devil if you are talking about diabetes. Let's assume also this is true. The logical consequence would be the visceral fat has to disappear and the hepatic fat has to disappear. But which one has to first disappear? The hepatic fat. Why? Because the visceral fat we only get away by physical activity. If you walk 10,000 steps a day, you can reduce visceral fat by 45 grams per week. If you have 4.5 kilogram, it takes 100 weeks, it's 2 years, but it's a goal, it's achievable. But we have to first get the hepatic fat away. And how can we get the hepatic fat disappearing? Hepatic fat means fat vesicles in the hepatocyte or between hepatocytes. How can we make them disappearing without asking the surgeon to remove the liver? The answer is fasting. If you fast for 2 weeks without eating anything, so I'm not talking about a Ramadan style of fasting. If you fast for 2 weeks without eating anything, 0 kilocalorie, then the liver fat totally disappears. And the reason for this is glucagon. But I will come to this later. Glucagon is the much cooler hormone. Oh, now it's gone. it's a much cooler hormone compared to insulin. It's a step-brother or step-sister of insulin. It was found in the same year. It got 3 Nobel Prizes for glucagon, and glucagon is the coolest hormone we have if you're talking about diabetes mellitus. But let's look at this. Here diabetes starts, and here we diagnose diabetes. We come far too late, and we have to think about how to act earlier in this red paradigm to make a difference for our patient. The visceral fat and hepatic fat defines the risk for getting type 2 diabetes. And this slide I always think is interesting. Look on one side, you see the people NAFLD as a synonym for liver fat, without liver fat and with liver fat, and then split off in slim and obese. So slim means BMI of 17, obese means BMI of 32. And the x-axis is the y-axis is the insulin resistance. So you see, the obese person without liver fat has a better insulin sensitivity or resistance than the slim person but having liver fat. So the liver fat is really driving the disaster. And the good thing is, if I apologize for the German slide, but this is you feeling like if I'm sitting here and you speak French. If we have liver fat, then we also have the fat in the pancreas. And maybe what I told you is not true. It may be not the fat in the liver, it's maybe the fat in the pancreas. But we cannot diagnose this because we can make a biopsy in the liver, we cannot do it in the pancreas. But it's always the same. If you have it in the liver, you have it in the pancreas, and this destroys beta cell function. But also the opposite is true. If you remove it out of the liver, then you also remove it out of the pancreas, and it may restore beta cell function, may lead to a remission of diabetes. And in the studies done in the moment, if you fast for 2 weeks without eating any kilocalories, so basically water diet, you can lead to a remission of 30 to 40% of the people with type 2 diabetes. And this is very, very, very cool information. But let's go ahead. We also have to understand where it's coming from. On this slide you see 380,000 patient years. And it analyzes if you drink 1 soft drink per day over the period of 1 year, how much is increasing your diabetes risk. If you drink water, it's not increasing diabetes risk. So if this is a surprise for you, I want to repeat it, water is a healthy drink. If you drink an orange juice, maybe in orange juice there are a lot of oranges on the label but none in the bottle. It's 40% like a Coke. The Diet Coke makes 60%. How can the Coke without sugar is making more diabetes than the Coke with sugar? It may sound odd, but the answer are the artificial sweetener. And the artificial sweetener, they change the microbiome. If you drink 1 Diet Coke per day, it totally changes the microbiome within 2-3 days. 10 days a Diet Coke has a more severe impact on your microbiome than taking 10 days antibiotics. And you could say, I don't care about my microbiome, but why is it relevant? Because the bacteria who are eating the artificial sweetener, they invade the gut. There's 13 different kind of germs, and this bacteria, they produce fatty acids. And these fatty acids are highly saturated. So it's basically the stool of the bacteria, but what happens? They are in our gut. So what happens with the fatty acids? We incorporate them into our body, in the bloodstream, like the fat from the tiramisu or the excellent sweets we just had in the break. So, and what happens with this fatty acid? They accumulate in the liver. So they make you getting MAFLD or NAFLD or NASH or MESH. Well, it doesn't matter how you name it. And this increases significantly in your risk in getting diabetes. But we also have to understand our patient. We believe as physicians, if we tell the patient you have to change lifestyle, the patient will follow us. This is not true. If you talk about cancer and infections, the patient follows us. It needs surgery or antibiotic treatment. If you talk about diabetes and obesity, we as physicians are out of the game as decider for the lifestyle of the patient, not because we are bad, because others are better, and this is the family of the patient, the peer group of the patient. It could be friends on social networks. So the lifestyle of the family of the patient is more relevant to the lifestyle of the patient than talking to us. It's bad, but it is true. And if the patient is changing lifestyle, he wants to see within 2 days an improvement in quality of life. So now think what we are telling our patient. Is this really improving the quality of life within 2 days? Most of the cases not. So we have to think about approaches improving quality of life. This works. There are standards of behavior change. There are techniques of behavior change. like motivational interviewing, reflective listening, open questions, change talk. And this may help to talk to the patient to motivate him or to guide him through a motivational process. And the new development, and this is relevant to us because this is something we can scale up globally, is smart health, is digitalization. And I think this is disruptive. My goal as the next president, or now as the president of the International Diabetes Federation, I want to become in the pocket of every one of our patients worldwide. So who is in the pocket of every one of our patients worldwide? It's Google. It's TikTok. It's YouTube. So is this an opportunity for us as physicians to reach our patient and to do something with the patient? Clearly, yes. If you are looking here at this, gray is how our anti-diabetic agents lower A1C, green how lifestyle is doing this, and blue how digital tools are doing this. So, and there are old, middle old, and young digital tools. So what are young digital tools? These are smartphone-based apps. So smartphone-based apps are a cool approach. So how can an app on a smartphone lower A1C? It's not a drug. The answer in my eyes is very simple. We are in the pocket of our patient. We never have been so close to our patient than being in the pocket of the patient. Every one of us is taking 1,800 decisions every day. 450 are related to our lifestyle. Now assume by a smartphone-based app, you set in the right moment with the right motivational strategy, with the right content, impulses to influence only 10 out of the 450 decisions. We can translate this into 10 kilogram weight reduction over the period of 1 year. And this is cool because we can reach our patients directly. And it doesn't matter how good the healthcare system is, it matters how the degree of digitalization is. And if we are in Rwanda, Rwanda has a digital infrastructure which is better than Europe, but has no physicians. If we are in India, there is a huge amount of digital infrastructure, and the number of physicians cannot combat with 253 million people with diabetes. So these are the challenges, but also opportunities to reach our patients. So why not modern diabetology should look like this? There are examples in Germany. We have digital therapeutics for diabetes care licensed and reimbursed in Germany in the healthcare system. One is Vitadio, it's a type 2 diabetes educational app. It's guiding the patient over a period of 3 months up to 12 months through diabetes education. It lowers A1C by 0.9% every 3 months. It uses AI, so the patient is making a photo and he's not getting blamed for what he's eating, but the information is used to help the patient to make the next meal more healthy. Maybe it's a different application, also using AI. You make a photo and this algorithms analyze what you are eating, so you don't have to enter what you are eating anymore. And this information is used to help you to focus on a more healthy, low-carb, fiber-rich diet and helping the patient with motivation strategies to implement this. Una is an app using the sensor and doing nutritional coaching based on the glucose sensor curve. So this is actually also very cool because the patient sees how the sensor curve is, then he changes the diet and immediately sees how the effect is on glucose level, and they're using strategy of cognitive behavior change to help the patient to accomplish this and so on. And this is a Swedish development from a Swedish diabetologist, and it's a complete AI diabetology approach. So this is again the sensor, neural networks, open language model, artificial intelligence, 1,000 patients using the sensor and entering what they are doing per day. And this is used as a kind of swarm cohort. And every patient using this app is compared with this cohort. And there are 6 areas. This green circle means there are 6 areas where the patient is getting recommendation, what to eat, how to physical activity, but also how to inject insulin. So the patient gets a message today at 6:35 you should inject 22 units of long-acting insulin. And then it's recorded, is the patient doing it or not? Some patients hate it, some patients love it. And the A1C reduction over 6 months is 2.1%. So these are cool approaches. It's diabetology out of the pocket of the patient. I think many physicians may say, oh no, I don't want this because they copy me. They replace me. But think about Rwanda, 380,000 people with diabetes and one diabetologist. This would be exactly the right approach for countries like this. And here are examples how the AI is using this. They are analyzing 1,440 glucose measurements per day and comparing it with the SWARM cohort. I showed this already. I think this is a big opportunity for the International Diabetes Federation. At the end, I want to come to the fasting again. We know if you eat less, this is healthy. Yeah, we had several presentations today about changing diet. Maybe not to eat for 2 weeks is even more healthy, and it is. So in my eyes, fasting for 2 weeks by only drinking water is the fastest gain of health you can achieve for someone. It's a challenge. You lose 10 kilograms of body weight, you accumulate 3 kilograms after the fasting again. It's because of the fluid change. But it totally resets your microbiome, and it totally abolishes the liver by liver fat. And why does this work? At the end, I told you about the glucagon. If you have a situation where glucose is low, insulin is low, and glycogen stores are empty, then glucagon is pushed out. And glucagon is a very cool hormone, but the first action is to break down glycogen. So what to do if glycogen stores are empty? Then there are two options: breaking down protein to make glucose out of it, or breaking down fat to make ketone bodies out of it. If you have a handful of glucose and a handful of ketones, ketones contain 80% more energy. So this is actually cool energy for us. This is the hunger metabolism from the evolution. So now, low glucose, low insulin, and empty glycogen store, you reach after 4 days of fasting. It doesn't matter, are you diabetic or not? If you stop eating, glucose is going down. Then as a next step, insulin follows, but glucagon first tries to break down all the glycogen. But there's no glucose coming back to fill glycogen stores, so they get empty, and then they are gone. And this is the right moment. This is about after 3.5 to 4 days of total fasting, glucagon switches on the breakdown of proteins or fat. And now how to direct between protein or fat? Because breaking down protein would be bad. And muscle, which is used, is not broken down. So if you fast, you have to be physically active. So walking 10,000 steps a day, then the glucagon switches to breaking down fat to make ketone bodies out of it. And this is shown here. There's the upper corner, you see the beta-hydroxybutyrate, and below 290 is normal, and you have 20 to 40-fold increased ketone bodies. If you are working on an ICU, you get a shock by seeing this. But if you have a normal, I will not say a healthy, if you have a normal individual, it's totally fine, but you have to drink fluid to help the kidney to compensate for this. And this blue are the ketone bodies, and actually obese people have an advantage by fasting, because if I say after 3.5 days you switch into it, it's for a non-diabetic, non-obese individual. If you are obese and have diabetes, you start with the ketosis already after 2.5 days. And here you see an AGP, ambulatory glucose profile, of a diabetes person after fasting. You see a flat curve like I showed you at the beginning from the lady. And this is MRI imaging or MRI spectroscopy, and the cloudy liver is fat. And this is after fasting. So I think it does not need more pictures to show how fasting works. We are working as the International Diabetes Federation on a guideline, fasting and diabetes, and these are the recommendations for fasting at the current stage of evidence. And this is about what you can reach by fasting on a physiological level. I become the president, or I am the president of the International Diabetes Federation now. I will focus on prevention, on digitalization, and building a strong IDF. And the main motivation, the main passion is addressing the need of people with diabetes, not the need of the physicians, because we know what we want, but we have to focus what the patient wants, and we ignore the need of the patient too often. And I want that the IDF becomes a very powerful voice for people with diabetes and for all the healthcare professionals working with people with diabetes, because I truly believe every one of us, every diabetes patient has the same right to get the same quality of diabetes care and to get the same access and availability of diabetes care. And this is a much bigger challenge than having the same right. It's not the same accessibility. It's not the same availability of diabetes care in all regions worldwide. Think about the father of the diabetes child in Congo. And the clear objectives for me is I want to be in the diary of every healthcare professional working with diabetes in the world. I want to be in the pocket of every diabetes patient and in the heart of every diabetes healthcare professional. Number one, we will develop a global diabetes index. This is an index by asking 100,000 patients and 100,000 physicians in every country in the world once every year and translating this in an index representing the quality of diabetes care. Making the quality of diabetes care in Morocco comparable to Germany and to Bangladesh, and we will surprise what we see, because it's not always the country we have on top of our list having the best quality of diabetes care. But we will make it comparable. 3 weeks ahead of World Diabetes Day, release the information totally for free and give it every healthcare professional in the world. Secondly, together with Google and YouTube and maybe TikTok, developing a global diabetes educational strategy, a free diabetes education app for every diabetes patient worldwide. And thirdly, an IDF fellowship program. My goal is that every person who's interested in treating people with diabetes becomes fellow of the International Diabetes Federation and gets all professional diabetes education basically for free if you are a fellow of the International Diabetes Federation. So think about this. If you want to treat people with diabetes, don't forget the International Diabetes Federation, I don't know how to say it in French, and become fellow of this organization. Finally, these are faces of people with diabetes worldwide, and with these activities we are planning, together with you, together with your organization, we would like to put a smile on these faces of people with diabetes. Under the roof of the International Diabetes Federation, we should work together with all our energy, all our enthusiasm and passion to help our patient to walk away from diabetes. Shukran. Thank you very much.